Back in the 90s, I was working at this call center, and I was the manager and we had a lot of calls that came in every day. And our office was located right in the center of a hospital and coffin cellar. It was a small rental place, and we were selling piggy stocks to people. So our office wasn't really the high-end office like them stock exchanges, and it was a low-rent place and really weird place to have an office at, between a hospital and a coffin shop. I was the night shift manager, and I didn't but it paid better than the day shift and the staff was less, so it wasn't difficult to manage them all. Day shift was a pain in the ass to manage, and I wasn't ready for that. We had these small coffee breaks in the night where we would just sit outside the office and see the hospital all busy, and even the coffin shop would stay busy most of the times. People would walk across from the hospital to the coffin shop, and being there in the night shift, you would witness it all. It was weird that we did that, but it was very thought-levitating, and we all enjoyed deep conversation in those small coffee breaks of contemplation. Even the employees that worked the night might look weird to the outside world, but they were much deeper in their thinking than compared to the day shift staff, and I managed them both, and I liked the night staff much better. This one day, when there weren't people at the shift because of the flu, there was a flu going around and it hit the office. Most of the employees were down with it, and only a handful were able to attend the office. And we were keeping busy that night since there were a handful of us and a lot of phone calls to handle. The night was too busy, and it was all chaos in there. We were handling calls for our friends. It was a tight night, and we were squeezing in as much call time as we can to hit the night's target. We had to stay ahead from the day shift team. It was important. We were hitting the targets right and were ahead than the team, and we're making sure we kept the lead, and that is why we were working our best to do that. So after a continuous call answering and making the lead by working 4 hours straight without stopping, we arranged a break for everyone and ordered pizza and Coke, and decided to head out and eat by the tables outside the office, and it was a great one. Everyone deserved that. When we got out there, we saw that even the hospital was quiet today, and the coffin shop closed, and it was one of those calm nights that were full of sweet melancholy, and we relaxed and sat on the tables, all of us staring in the distance, just enjoying our pizza and Cokes. It was a great night. And then, a man approached us. He asked if we knew when the coffin shop will open. We had no idea, so we told him. But then the man still kept on walking towards the shop, and then we just walked right past the door, and we were all astonished. We thought that the shop was closed, and then around 10 minutes later, the man walked back from the shop and said to us, "When my son comes, you will know. Tell him that I want the blue marbled coffin." And the man just kept walking towards the hospital. We were just dazed with everything weird that was going on. And then around a half hour later, when we were able to get inside, a young man asked us, "Excuse me, is the coffin shop open yet?" And I said, "No, it is closed today. It will remain closed today." And the man looked disappointed. And just out of the feeling in my gut, I said, "Your father wanted the blue marbled coffin." And he stopped and asked me, "What?" And then I told him the story about a man who just walked in a few minutes earlier. And then the man said, "You must be mistaken. My father died this morning. You must have mistaken me for someone else." And then I don't know why I did, but I asked the man to show us the photograph of his father. And then he took out his phone and showed us, and we were stunned. It was in fact his father, and the man was shocked. How could we have all seen the same man? And then we realized it was the ghost of the dead man, trying to convey the one final wish. Hey guys, thanks so much for all the support. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please feel free to do so. After high school many years ago, I was in a bad place. My guardian had kicked me out after graduation. She didn't help me find a place to stay, so I lived in my car for a couple of months. I met some heavy metal dudes at work one day. I'd seen them around town, and all my other friends knew who they were. Everyone loved them. We became friends over a couple months, and they offered for me to move in with him. I agreed. Looking back now, I wish I had just stayed in my car. My two main roommates were brothers named Andrew and Seth. They were in a band. They also believed in the occult and anything of that sort. I never really believed in that stuff, but I'm not one to tell someone what they should believe. They had let me live with them rent-free for several months, so who was I to complain? Being the only female in a house full of young men, I was always looking over my shoulder. You never know who you can trust, and turns out, I was right to worry. Over time, their friends started to stay with us for longer periods of time, sometimes weeks. Their friends were another group of brothers that they had gone to school with. There were 5 brothers in total, but only 2 stayed with us consistently. The younger brother Mark was very polite. He cleaned up after himself and always helped with the household chores. The other brother Adam had a laundry list of mental problems. He had apparently done some bad drugs back in the day, and he had developed into what seemed like psychosis of the religious sort. He had done time in prison for assaulting a woman with the Bible. He would often look you in the eye and tell you he could see how you would die. Once, he told me that I was possessed by a demon and I needed my soul cleansed. Everyone in the house knew he had these problems, but he was their friend. They helped him through the hard times and gave him a place to stay. Otherwise, he would be on the streets. I was always on guard around him after the things he told me. No one else seemed to be as concerned as I was. They should have been. One day I was sleeping, and my phone rang. I was my boss. He asked if I could come and work an hour early. It was only 12 p.m. I was broke and had nothing better to do. So I said yes. I got up and began getting ready to leave. I walked out into the living room to see Mark and Andrew sitting on the couch, while Adam sat on the floor by the TV. He was watching scripture videos on YouTube, some real end-of-day stuff. That was fairly common. So I went about my business. I said goodbye and left for work. My shift at work was almost complete when the phone rang. My boss answered, handed the phone to me and said, "It's for you." I was just a cashier, so I assumed it was a friend that couldn't reach me on my phone. I answered the phone and heard a man's voice that I didn't recognize. "Hi, this is Detective Williams. Something happened at your apartment today, and we need you to come into the station to talk to you about it." I left work immediately. I had assumed one of the brothers had been arrested for drug dealing or something. I was very wrong. I got to the station and was buzzed in. An officer escorted me to a small, cold room with a camera. He gave me a bottle of water and left me by myself for about 30 minutes. My mind was racing about what could have happened. He came back and informed me that Adam had stabbed and killed Andrew at around 1 p.m. I was shocked. I had just left the house an hour before it happened, and everything seemed fine. I asked if there had been a fight. The detective informed me that there hadn't been a fight, and it seemed to have happened out of nowhere. I gave my statement to the police and left with nowhere to go. Still in shock and confused and in my mind. Our apartment was a crime scene, so I went to another friend's house to watch the news report since the police wouldn't give me any information in the case. Over the next couple of days, the information began to be released. Adam hadn't just stabbed Andrew once, not twice, but he had stabbed him over and over and nearly decapitated him. After the murder, he ran down the road, still holding the murder weapon. He called 911 and informed them what he had done. I watched the news report in horror. We had known he was unstable, but this had fully confessed to the brutal murder and provided police with his notebooks. He had apparently planned to murder all of his brothers, my roommates, and me. He thought we were possessed by demons, and this was the only way to free us. Luckily, none of his other intended victims were there that day. Mark unfortunately witnessed the murder, but he was lucky I escaped. If I hadn't gotten that call from my boss, I wouldn't be alive today. This happened less than a month ago. I'm a petite female in my 20s. I'm currently living in Mexico to escape life, a little after post-grad in a city that is not known as a dangerous place. A lot of foreigners live here, and I haven't heard any safety concerns. I'm living with my cousin who works from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., but houses are in a pretty good area with a school, nice hotel, and Starbucks within walking distance. Just to give you an idea of how unexpected this was, the incident happened while my aunt was visiting us from Mexico City. She stayed home all day with me, while I usually studied or watched Netflix. On this day, I was planning to have a chill day since I had woken up at around 11:30 a.m. I was watching something on my computer when I started to hear some loud pounding, like someone was working on something with a hammer. This was around midday. I thought my aunt had let some repairman in to do some work. I was under the assumption my aunt was still in the house, so I wasn't too worried and continued to watch my show. The hard noise stopped, and I heard two male voices talking casually. This made me feel more confident that they were there to fix something. I get up from bed to fetch my phone, and I don't have any service plan down here to message my aunt on Facebook to see what's going on. I didn't get a reply from her, so I just took it as she was busy and go back to lying in bed to not thinking of anything of the noise. 5 minutes later, I hear footsteps coming up the door. Take in mind, I'm lying in bed with my back to the door. When the door opens, I see a man. He was a pretty normal-looking guy with facial hair and dressed rather cleanly. Like if you saw him in public, you wouldn't think anything negative about him. As soon as he saw me, he shut the door and went downstairs. Then I heard another huge noise that I led to realize was him slamming the front door shut. My room is first room above the stairs, so the first thought was that this repairman accidentally opened my door. I thought he was trying to get access to our patio. I was a little confused, but again, didn't think anything of the situation. I slowly walk downstairs calling my aunt's name, but I get no response. As soon as I make it down the stairs, I hear my aunt in a panicked voice saying that they robbed us. They took the TV. She forgot to lock the first iron door of the house, which made it easy for them to break into the second door. She said that when she was walking by from the store, she noticed someone by the house. She asked him what he wanted, and he said he was looking for a teacher, and he got into a car with the other man and left. She didn't notice the TV in their car or anything suspicious until she got to the house. She mentioned that someone had rang the doorbell before she left to go to the store. When she went to check, no one was there. She believed they'd been watching her and my cousin, so when they opened the bedroom door, they were caught off guard and dipped. It's really frightening to think what could have happened if they didn't get scared off by seeing me. The cops came and were then telling me that they often kidnap girls or rape them. I know I got lucky.